Hello, I'm Sean Lim, and welcome to After 10. With state trips to India and Switzerland already under her belt, President Park Geun-hye got a head start this year on her sales diplomacy push. On today's After 10, we give you a recap of the highlights. Stay with us. President Park Geun-hye hit the ground running at the start of the new year with a 9-day state visit to India and Switzerland. In her first visit to India, President Park agreed to elevate the two nations' bilateral relationship to a strategic partnership. And expanded foreign investment in Korea. Korea and India also had an in-depth discussion on ICT cooperation.
양국의 ICT 산업이 창의적 협력 모델을 만들 수 있다면 지금의 한계와 도전을 극복하고 다시 한번 세계의 시장을 선도하는 기회가 열리게 될 것이라고 봅니다.
The president's state visit to Switzerland was the first for a Korean leader since the two nations established diplomatic ties 51 years ago. The two leaders agreed to build close partnerships in vocational training so that it can create a synergy effect in the field of economy. Switzerland, a country with its own independent channel with the North, also promised to give security support to South Korea.
Celle que la Suisse est toujours prête à mettre à disposition ses bons offices, et cela devait être souhaité et souhaitable pour la sécurité et la stabilité de la région coréenne.
President Park promotes sales diplomacy whenever she makes a state visit. She emphasized the need of cooperation to stimulate the creative economy in a keynote speech she delivered at the World Economic Forum, at cultural events she participated in, and in meetings with global CEOs. On today's After 10, we assess President Park Geun-hye's state visits to India and Switzerland. So, Professor Shin, thank you so much for joining us tonight on After 10.
My pleasure.
So why did President Park start off her year of diplomacy overseas with India and Switzerland? And where's the link to her creative economy initiative?
Oh, well, in fact, the main reason why she visited to these two countries is related to the economic structure, economic characteristics of these two countries. And India and Switzerland can be an ideal partner for Korea, which pursue the creative economy. Well, India is has a huge population. It has about 1.2 billion population, and then India has the strength in the basic sciences, IT and aerospaces. And particularly IT sector is one of the very important industrial sector for Korea, which can strengthen the cooperation with India, with the Korean IT sector. And how about Switzerland? Switzerland is a small but strong country. You know, it has the high-level technologies, and then it has the very well-developed vocational training system. And then the small and medium-sized enterprises have been the backbone in Switzerland economy. So those things are very attractive for Korean government in an effort to achieve the creative economy.
Well, let's go and unwrap a little bit more of the trip she took to India. President Park mentioned that she hopes that the two nations increase their strategic partnership.
Right.
So what areas does that cover?
Well, as I explained just before, India has the strength in the basic sciences and aerospaces and IT sector, which means in these sectors, we can advance economic cooperation. But the POSCO is one of the big company in Korea. POSCO already started the business in India several years ago, but it cannot be very successful. I mean, during the state visit, certainly President Park had some talk about how encourage POSCO be more important actors in Indian economy with her counterparts. So they discuss about how to they help the POSCO's business activities in India. And also they discuss about improvement of the SEPA. Well, actually SEPA stands for Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Actually this agreement was signed by two countries in 2009. But in case of the SEPA signed by the Korean government, Indian government had the quite different goal. That means that the main goal, which government, two countries they has sought for the last several years, was to the lower tariff rates, not to eliminate tariff rates. So that's one of the reasons why the President Park Geun-hye, during her visit, she had some in-depth discussion about the improvement of the SEPA with her counterpart.
So they're definitely getting there. President Park Geun-hye also met with the chairman of Mahindra & Mahindra,
right.
the top shareholder of Korea Sangyong Motors.
Right.
What sorts of achievements was she trying to get out of that meeting?
Well, at the meeting with the chairman of that group, Indian group, she explained how the good investment climate we have, which means that eventually she wanted to ask him to make more direct investment into Korea. Well, actually, he announced that he had a plan to make about $1 billion the investment into Sangyong Motors in Korea for the last 4 years. So, which means that to attract foreign direct investment in Korea means to create more jobs. Well, one of the difficult issues for the Korean government at the time is to lower the youth unemployment rate. This is one of the very important issues which Korean government should find an answer. So I think by attracting the foreign direct investment from the foreign investors, such as such a big business conglomerates, global companies, that will be one of the way to overcome the economic challenges facing the Korean government at the moment.
So, if foreign companies do want to invest in Korea, what are some of the challenges that they still say are there, and does a trip by a president to another country resolve some of those issues?
Well, for the several decades, on the Korean Peninsula, there has been tensions because of North Korea. Well, in case of manufacturing sector, the foreign investors have considered the political instability or political tension as one of the most important factors when they consider making a decision whether they are making FDI or not in a specific country. Well, in terms of this aspects, Korea has been one of the places which it was difficult for Korea to attract foreign direct investment from foreign countries. But for the last 10 years, Korean economy has grown up quite faster than other countries. So we improved our images in the global arena. So Korea, even though we still have a tension because of North Korea, we could eliminate those kind of the risks, to some degree. Secondly, Korean market has been more attractive for foreign investors, during the financial crisis for the last several years, like the other developing countries. During the financial crisis, depending on the USA government policy, such as the quantitative easing policy, depending on their decision, some countries were suffering from the withdrawal of the investment. Made by the major economies. It's like India has had serious difficulties because of the USA decision, because many monies, investment left from India, but those monies have come into Korea. Well, this shows that how strong economic foundations we have built. So we have a very strong economic fundamentals, which means that the Korean economy has been strong enough to overcome such a kind of the negative factors, such as the high tensions on the Korean Peninsula because of North Korea.
And that's something that comes up in the meetings that the president has with some of these heads of global companies? And does she reassure them on that front?
Yeah, along with that, certainly the President Park Geun-hye explained the so-called the government efforts. Government has announced that the changes of the policies. They said that they will do their best to eliminate any barriers for the foreign investors when they consider making investment into Korea. For
so
example,
they can have a direct conversation with the president of the country on North North Korea policy to reassure their investment potential?
Well, particularly when she had a meeting with the Switzerland president, she expressed her thanks to them, because the Swiss helped us during the Korean War, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That is that, she wants to indirectly empathize that, well, our economy has a strong fundamental, and then the current environment is not bad as it was. And she also explained how she will change the current the policies relating to the foreign direct investment. She will eliminate some barriers, so to speak, for the investors. By doing so, she emphasized that Korea has quite a very attractive investment climate, which is good enough to attract foreign direct investments.
Well, India really laid out the red carpet in terms of culture as well for the president. They prepared a Korean exhibition of cultural artifacts and also even turned on a Korean drama on some of their broadcasters. So how important is the cultural exchange component to these improving of bilateral ties?
I think it's really, really important. Since she became the president last year, as far as I remember, except for this summit, official visit, she has visited to 9 countries and European Union. Unlike the other president, she has put more importance on the cultural relationship with the countries where she has visited. I think this is very important. If we are friends, right, for example, I know who you are. You are working at Arirang TV and blah, blah, blah. But if we can share, more fundamental things of each other's, we can be a real good friends, In the relationship between the countries, definitely the cultural aspects, cultural things seems to be kind of some very fundamental things. If they can understand better than the other countries' culture, definitely we can easily open our mind, and we can easily discuss more economic and political issues with open minds. So I think cultural relationship can be a kind of some stepping stone for the countries to develop the economic and political relations further.
After India, the president made a trip to Switzerland. What was her objective over in the European Union?
As I emphasize that Switzerland can be one of the ideal partner for Korean government seeking for, pursuing the so-called creative economy. Well, which means that the Switzerland has the well-developed vocational training system, and then in Switzerland economy, small and medium-sized enterprises have been a very important actors. Then we can get an answer to the question why and how the Switzerland could be a small but strong country, because they have the small and medium, very strong small and medium enterprises, which means they have very high level of technologies, which is a very competitive in global market. And next question we have to find an answer is that how they got such a kind of the competitiveness. That means that maybe there could be several factors, but one of the most important factors is the good quality of labor forces, good quality of human manpower. Then next question is from where they got such a very good quality human resources. Education, including vocational training system.
Well, a lot of people observing Korea have noted the high level of education quality in our nation. So how do you explain to viewers who are wondering why we would look to Switzerland to improve our education system? Is there a gap that we're trying to fill?
Well, this is really important, the point. Actually, Switzerland and Korea share many things in common. We are a very small country too. We don't have much abundant natural resources. So human capital has been one of the very important factors for us to achieve the economic growth. But at the moment, when you compare the technological level which the Switzerland has and we have, well, in some sectors, it's like precision machineries, and then, well, in some IT sector, certainly Switzerland industries have more, higher level of technology than we have. then which means that we have to cooperate then to learn something from the Swiss companies. Secondly, as I mentioned before, Korean economy has been developed with the several numbers of the big conglomerates. As you know, one of the hard issues for the Korean government, Korean economy is that excessive contribution of a few number of chaebols to Korean economic growth, which means that if they have some problem, the Korean economy will be hit by directly. So, for us to overcome those kind of the problems, weak point, we have to we have to have strong SMEs. Then, as I said before, Switzerland has strong SMEs. Then we have to learn how we can make our SMEs be stronger than they are right now.
And part of our push to support the SMEs was to visit a vocational school with the Swiss president and to try to benchmark some of the techniques there.
Yes, just after the summit meeting, I mean, they announced that the 20 Korean students will have a chance to get the vocational training at the Swiss companies, So I think this is kind of beginning, I think. So certainly it will be very helpful for the Korean economy in the future, I think.
The president attended the 44th World Economic Forum where she gave a keynote address on the creative economy and entrepreneurship. What was she trying to achieve through this dialogue with the audience?
Well, she emphasized the importance of the creative economy, which the Korean government is pursuing. And she explained how she will implement the policies to achieve the creative economy. And also, along with the explanation about the creative economy, she emphasized that how the global community can overcome the economic crisis facing the global community. Since 2007, the global economy has been depressed. So even though the global economy is right now recovering, but it's very slow. So I think the President Park Geun-hye will suggest the creative economy as one of the way to overcome the global economic crisis to the global community, I think.
We in Korea believe that the only way to solving our problems is to creatively innovate our way out. The promotion of creativity will serve as the wellspring for overcoming unbalanced growth among nations and among different classes. The defatigable spirit of entrepreneurship can lift economies up and lift countries up. It is now up to us to rise to the challenge and not be afraid to fail.
So President Park also met with some CEOs of leading companies over at Davos, and some of them are actually competitors to Korean firms. So what's the strategy behind meeting with a company that may have a direct competition with Korea?
This is very difficult question to answer. Definitely, we have a few the business conglomerates, which have competitive advantages in global market. But everything is changing very, very fast. So to keep the competitive advantages on the part of the Korean business conglomerates, they should continue make every effort to develop new technologies. To have the more motivation to develop the new technologies, definitely they should keep on talking and keep on our meeting with their counterparts. Well, the President Park Geun-hye during her visit the Davos, she met already a few number of the CEOs of global companies, and she will have a plan to meet the further the CEOs of global companies. Why? Basically, she wants to explain how good investment climates Korea has, and definitely she wants to attract more foreign direct investment from them. And then also the other one is she accompanied with about 70 the business leaders, Korean business leaders. She tried to arrange some meeting between the global companies and the Korean companies, particularly small and medium enterprises. by doing so, if they can help them to start some business relationship, I think certainly the Korean small and medium-sized enterprises can have more motivations, more chances to learn higher technologies from those big the companies, I think.
Compared to previous governments, has President Park been more aggressive in a sales diplomacy push in that role for the country?
Well, depending on the leadership, I think. But President Park Geun-hye, I think, since the inauguration, she has emphasized the importance of the private sector in the Korean economy, particularly in the name of the creative the economy. She has emphasized the importance of the ideas and the roles of the private sector, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises. And along with the efforts in the economic sector, she has empathized, as we discussed very briefly already, the cultural relations with many countries. She certainly thinks that the cultural understanding on the cultures of different countries can be very helpful for the future economic cooperations, for the future political cooperations with other countries. So she seems to put our priorities on the economic sector as well as political sector, well, also the cultural sector. I think this is quite a little bit different from the previous president.
So President Park Geun-hye got to a quick start this year in terms of international diplomacy, but earlier or last year, she did say that she wanted to focus on the domestic economy and make sure that everybody feels the effects of the economic recovery here in Korea. Do you think we'll settle down in terms of having a quiet year of international diplomacy, or do you think our diplomatic power will rise?
I think that we cannot think the domestic economy, separated from the international circumstances or international economy. As you know very well, since 1997, the Korean economy was hit by the financial crisis. We overcome it. But in 2007, there was another round of the international financial crisis. And in 2011, there was another financial crisis in Europe. So, as we know very well, the global economy has been in depressed. So I think but right now, the global economy is right now escaping from the difficult time, even though it is very slow. Which means that the global economy can directly affect the Korean economy because we have economic structure which is heavily rely on international relations, economic relations. So what I want to say is that, you know, implementing more active, more aggressive, so to speak, the international or diplomatic or sales diplomacy, it can be very helpful for the Korean domestic economy as well. So I do think that all those efforts made by the President Park Geun-hye should be understood not only in the domestic context but also the international context.
So she has a tough job. She has to take care of things at home and also take care of things overseas.
Yes.
All at the same time.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time and insight tonight.
Well, my pleasure.
And that does it for us tonight on After 10. Join us again. We'll see you soon.